Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're diving into a very important skill for navigating professional communication. Do you know what it is? Okay. If you saw the title already, no surprise, right? It's adaptability. And this is something I emphasize across all of my training, regardless of the individual's goals or targets. Whether you're looking to sharpen your language skills for more professional opportunities or just trying to feel more confident in your day-to-day communication, adaptability is key. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the differences between adapting to match a certain code, what some might call code switching, versus adaptability because you're not a native speaker. And I want to be very clear about the difference. Okay, so we're gonna unpack the trickiness with this topic, but I just want to say adaptability also speaks to someone's ability to survive and excel in the professional workplace. This is something that I focus on with professionals from all walks of life. It's not just about speaking English well. It's about adjusting your communication strategies to fit the context you're in. And the flexibility inside of this type of approach is what separates good communication from truly effective and impact-driven communication. So let's start first by talking about something that often gets overlooked: context. If ultimate is my least favorite word, context is my most favorite word, all right? Just put it up someone give me a mug with context on it, all right? In big, bold letters, straight across the outside. I cannot go a single day or hour, if I'm awake, without talking about context. Context drives everything. And when it comes to communication, context is everything. So just think about it. The way you speak to your team members, your manager, a client, or a colleague from a different department, each of these situations requires a different approach because each of these situations gives you a different context, right? So in the previous episodes, we talked about why it's not just about getting the words right or following grammar rules. It's about understanding who you're communicating with, why you're communicating, and how the message needs to land. So again, you could have flawless grammar and vocabulary, right? If I evaluated you based on traditional standards, you'd pass with flying colors, right? But if you're not adjusting your expression to the audience, the situation, and even nonverbal cues, which is a whole other topic we have not touched, happening around you, your message could fall flat. And many people don't really see it, unfortunately, until they experience it, right? Which is why so many people, when they contact me for consultations, it's after something big happened and something to shift them out of the place of, oh my gosh, I thought my English was advanced and therefore I would have no problems, and into, oh my gosh, I see this is a communication thing and I need to work on this with someone. So here's the thing. In any professional setting, adaptability allows you to read the room, understand subtle cues, shift your tone, and approach accordingly. For example, let's consider a situation where you're going to be presenting an idea in a meeting. The way you present this idea based on the person in front of you might change, right? And it's not only about hierarchy. It's not only if your boss is in the room or your boss's boss or a coworker who doesn't like you or something like that. It's not just about who is in the room. It's also about their relative roles inside of that project, and people who have actually worked inside of large, complex, multinational teams, but also multidisciplinary teams understand this. I understand this because I have lived it. I know that positional hierarchy is one thing inside of a team or organization, but these roles shift and change depending on the nature of the project. So everybody needs to adapt. Everybody needs to know how to be advocate, strategist, critical thinker, and analyst, more and more, depending on what is required in that particular time. So knowing how to adjust your delivery to match the expectations of the situation, but also what you hope to accomplish, your personal goals inside of that situation. That is what I'm talking about when I talk about a person's adaptability. Being adaptable also means knowing when to listen, when to speak up, when to moderate your tone, how to tune into the subtle dynamics that influence how your message could be received. Are you delivering an update to a key stakeholder, or are you simply just chatting with others on the team? You need to know when to be concise, clear, focused. Are you brainstorming? Are you trying to get buy-in and partnership? How do you shift? How should you shift? Should you be more collaborative and open, or should you be more standoffish but firm? This does not mean that you change who you are. And we're going to talk in a moment about how code switching is very controversial these days, but also very misunderstood. But furthermore, these are not things we get trained on in language classes or traditional business English courses, correct? We are taught vocabulary, grammar, some expressions and conventions, but we are rarely taught how to adapt based on the network of complexities in a given situation. And I am not faulting business English instructors nor professionals. I am simply saying that is why you cannot be seeing your business English courses as this, I don't want to say it, but ultimate gold standard or one size fits all. You have to know how to adapt the material based on what you need. So let's talk for a moment about how adaptability can support your career growth. And this is more intuitive for some than others. So first, adaptability isn't just about getting the communication right. It's a key piece in unlocking where you can go. If you are just thinking about it in your present-day circumstances, that is very short-sighted. We all have goals, ambitions, plans perhaps, dreams, desires, motives for where we want to take our careers. And so these skills and these tools that I talk about are not just for the here and now. They are how you will build each step towards the future. I'm going to take a note from a friend and colleague. She recently talked about how making career shifts started first with her leaving breadcrumbs and creating the idea of breadcrumbs inside of her present day here and now. Her name's Cax, and I loved that so much because I agree. How we think about each one of these pieces, they're not meant to be the full picture. Each piece is another step in supporting our long-term trajectory, our long-term growth. And the more pieces that are aligned, the more pieces that are relevant, the more pieces that are attuned to who you are, to what you want, what you are trying to work towards, the more support you'll be building inside of yourself. So whether you're looking to grow within your current organization or expand your professional network, adaptability shows that you can handle diverse environments and communicate effectively no matter the circumstances. And we talked before about how the fatigue of unprecedented situations can often weigh on you. And I often say that there is no way around, only through. It doesn't mean you have to keep suffering, but if you can learn how to be more adaptable, it will be less tiring because you'll be able to tap into the skill set when you need it. So that unprecedented situations don't have to feel like a huge energy drain every single time. And if you think about it strategically, being adaptable positions you as someone who can engage with people from different backgrounds, disciplines, viewpoints, which is so extremely crucial and needed today in our world. How globalized, multicultural, and international we now are as a global workforce. So I want to take a moment to talk about why adaptability and code switching are often misunderstood. And I invite you to learn a little bit more about the term if you aren't familiar. Many people refer to code switching when it comes to needing to be a different version of themselves or being very far away from themselves sometimes when operating in different contexts. And you'll often see this as well for people talking about how they have to be in different languages. So imagine that different situations or different languages are a different code, and you need to switch yourself to match that code. As someone who code switches constantly, I know the difference between code switching to match an external model and code switching to match the expectations of the environment. And it's not always bad, all right? I often think about authenticity as me knowing who I am, no matter where I need to be, no matter which language I'm speaking, but also no matter which code I'm using. And that is something only I can know. And I really believe it's something that we as humans, it can't be seen from the outside. So I'll give you an example. When I am in different spaces, this is not a language related thing, this is just a context thing. When I am talking with friends who still work in tech, who are very much inside of that space, I code switch to bring together the gap between where I am and where they are, right? So that's done out of empathy because I used to work in tech and I know how to relate to the challenges that they're having, even if we're not inside of that same world anymore. That means I will use specific vocabulary, I might use certain types of expressions, or I might frame things in a certain way that allows me to flow inside of the conversation with them. And that is a skill that I honed over the course of my various careers. I've had many different careers at this point, and I think what I've learned is that that's just a part of communication under those circumstances. It does not mean I am not me. It does not mean that I am faking, which is a whole separate accusation, to be honest. It means that I'm choosing to pull from the vocabulary and the archive that I have in my head to help facilitate our social bonds. If I want to talk about a different topic, I can. But the mode that I'm in, or the sub-mode, or I don't know what you want to call it, is specific for that context. And I do the same when I talk to my friends who work inside of government policy. I used to be in their office as well, and I used to work alongside them. We don't only talk about these topics, but we're able to tap into that mode, sub-mode, when need be. Now, with languages, I would say this is an interesting one for me. And I recorded an episode with Patra. If you haven't heard this yet, this is a great time to go listen to that because she and I talk about how we had to go on our individual journeys to understand the difference between splitting ourselves into two different people to operate in two different languages simply because the expectations and values and cultures were so different versus how we can show up as ourselves now. And so, of course, I code switch. Of course, when I'm with Mandarin speaking people, I'm not acting like I'm fully English speaking. I might Chinglish, to be honest. I really like to Chinglish, but I don't need to pretend. I don't pretend, to be honest. It is me. It is how I'm speaking. I'm just in a different setting, okay? Like, imagine it that way. And so I think about adaptability in that same way. The same way I can adapt inside of different social contexts and inside of different languages. French is another one that I have to live through, which is a newer language for me to deal with socially. But I don't feel I have to betray myself in order to speak. I don't speak 100% the way that, say, my husband does, who's French, but I don't need to. I use the language in the way that I feel represents me, and I show up in that code inside of that environment. And I can do so because I can adapt. And it's the same inside of the professional space, because what we're talking about is both on a systems level and an individual interpersonal level. I adapt myself constantly for my clients. I don't talk to them in the same way, and not because I'm changing, but because they need different things. We relate in different ways. Adaptability is a skill I honed very early on. I don't feel the fatigue. I don't feel the complication. I am told by other people afterwards, like, whoa, didn't know that you had this other dimension and other world inside of you. That's so cool, right? When someone might watch me from the outside, for instance, this happens if I'm in different languages, or it happens if different people from my different walks of life come together and I see them. That's also the cool part of being human. It's complex, but it's very cool, because if you learn how to do this well without losing yourself, if you learn how to do this feeling that you can speak in whatever situation while maintaining your empowered standpoint and positioning, that is something that showcases not only your potential, but how much work you've done up until this point. And all my clients know this because I put them through many different exercise variations. They know no matter what they're working on with me, there will always be some sort of, all right, let's turn it around in this way and that way and flip it over again and take it from here. And you can thank my modern dance background for this. This is something that is that versatility that we so need. I had a client call me a Swiss Army knife, or rather she called my training a Swiss Army knife, which is really, really kind, but it's kind of funny because we are in a world that needs this now. We can't have people who are just cookie cutter because the stakes are too high, the competition is too fierce, and honestly, the needs are different. We need people who are able to cross different barriers from the past without compromising their integrity and compromising the integrity of a company. Okay, let's jump out of my personal situation. I'm always very happy to talk about it separately, or if you're interested, I can go deeper in other episodes. But I want to give you some practical tips that you can use to build more adaptability in your communication. So first off, it doesn't matter if it's with one person or 100. Before you speak, take a moment to assess the situation. It means at times waiting before you speak. And this tip, I've given a list, and number 1 says read the room. If you've ever heard that, it means take stock of who is there, what they need to hear, the tone of the conversation, and adjust based on these factors. And you might be thinking it's a lot of information to handle. Yes, but the more you practice it, the better you get. When you can read the room effectively and you start to tune in, okay, I know I just did an episode on fatigue and the monitoring, and this is part of it. But again, the more you practice, the more it will become natural. When you read the room and you allow that to guide how you speak, you are practicing your adaptability. You're not trying to act like a model. You're literally using the information that's before you, thinking about yourself, how you talk, the ideas you want to express, and you're saying, this is the way I'm going forward. Number 2, be flexible in your delivery. It's not always about what you say, it's about how you say it. And this is a very common refrain. And I know that there are people who love to pretend. I used to work for one of these people, so I know what it is and the pain involved dealing with someone who likes to pretend that the entire world of communication and soft skills does not exist. Unfortunately for this person, her trying to act like it doesn't exist doesn't mean it's true, all right? So we're going with the premise that it does matter. How you say something does matter. That's why your colleague, who is probably stupider than you, probably not as impressive, is able to win people over based on how they say something, not only what they say. At times, the same message can be delivered in many ways, right? The words, the stress, the tone, the emphasis. Play with these different factors. Work with someone. You can book time with a lot of different people online for this. I really recommend that people, if it's for a specific targeted exercise like this, that you find people, online tutors, teachers who can help you. They can give you feedback on how you sound. You can even do it yourself. You don't even have to pay someone to do it. Just open up a Zoom meeting, record yourself, play it back, and observe what you see. I know it's uncomfortable, but what's the alternative? I tell this to my clients all the time. That's why I'm laughing. What's the alternative for you to go into a room full of strangers and risk it there? We need to get comfortable in watching ourselves, myself included, by the way. Before I started this podcast, I was not very visible. And I am not someone, I know I project a lot of confidence, but I am not someone who loves seeing my face online or hearing my voice. I cannot believe I have a podcast because I'm listening to my voice all the time. It is so annoying to me. But I have to get comfortable with it if I want to do what I want to do. And I would rather get comfortable alone than never listening to myself, pretending that it doesn't exist, pretending that it's far, far away and I can just forget about it after an interaction has happened, because that doesn't solve anything. Your denial of something is not going to solve anything. So remember, you can play around. Your delivery can be dynamic. Your delivery can be different and varied and strike different chords with different people because of how you've chosen to handle it. And along those same lines, number 3 is adjust to the context. Again, no surprise, but you have to adjust. You have to adapt based on what situation you're actually in. So learn to recognize the different contexts, how they demand different types of communication. I do work with my clients to sort of codify and organize this for them, but this is something you can do for yourself. You can simply do a small audit, a small review of all the different situations you have to go through, whether they're formal or informal, or who's there, what's the dynamic, what sort of tone do you feel like you need to bring, and label them as different gears and decide how you're going to align different approaches accordingly. I know it's easier said than done, okay? I don't mean to just brush it off, but this is a great opportunity for you to really, really think about how can you adjust. I use the word shift a lot because that's how I see it. I don't think that the word change or modify is correct because we're not exactly changing us. We're just shifting into a different orientation, a different positioning, it is a much more flexible term, and I love it. Truthfully, people used pivot for a long time, wasn't too much of a fan of that. It's not exactly the same thing, pivot and shift, but I am very, very, very much a fan of using the word shift. It's why you see it everywhere. That's why I have a Substack called The Communication Shift. I really believe shifting is it's the term of the century for me. Sorry guys, you're stuck with it forever. All right, number 4 is to be open to feedback. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you just listen to criticism. Feedback comes in positive and negative ways. It comes to be constructive or not, productive or not, beneficial or not. Learn how to ask and how to receive feedback based on your different communication contexts. Are you coming across clearly? Is your message landing well? You can ask trusted coworkers, colleagues, and managers for feedback formally, and you can ask friends for informal feedback, right? Adjust based on what they tell you. And I would say this also goes one of 2 ways. Generally, some people can only listen to the positive and others can only listen to the negative. I've worked with quite a few who have a very strong affinity for the negative and the criticism and think that's somehow good. That is not balanced at all, okay? If you are just focusing on the negative, which everyone always takes into, well, I am so strong and I can take it. It's not about whether you can take it. It's about whether or not it's relevant. And if that negative feedback is not relevant, You are overemphasizing it. Okay. I'm like, this is my hardcore trainer hat on. Like, you can imagine what it's like to work with me. So these episodes are very passionate because I'm passionate about many things, but this is my wheelhouse, right? So, all right, last thing is to practice empathy. And I know that sounds generic, but truthfully, one of the keys to being adaptable is understanding the needs and expectations of your audience. When you can truly understand where someone else is coming from, you can adjust your language and delivery to meet their needs more effectively. And that's why I wanted to use the example of me having worked in different industries and disciplines before to give you an idea of how I do it. That's from empathy, because when my former coworker is telling me about his or her struggles in the workplace, I am back inside of that situation with them. I am back inside of that world, back inside of that environment, and I'm listening and walking through that journey with them. And that's me adapting to them. So the bottom line is this: adaptability is often the missing piece that makes good communication great. And it's a skill that doesn't come from memorizing the right words or acting according to the conditions set by whatever code you were told you need to execute. It comes from learning how to adjust your approach to fit the specific context you're in. And that's why it's at the heart of my training approach, because no matter what your goals are, whether you're looking to grow confidence in your role or manage multicultural teams or engage more effectively with colleagues across different departments, adaptability is what helps you navigate all of those situations in an empowered and aligned way. So take these tips and just remember, the next time you're preparing for a meeting or a presentation, think about how you can be adaptable in your communication. Adaptability does not mean sucking up to people or being nice when you see that the situation would benefit you, right? Because we know that things are never that clear. It means that you ask yourself, how can I adjust my approach to better fit the needs of the situation, the context, and the audience in front of me? And as always, I appreciate so much if you have anything to say on the episodes that I'm recording. The solo episodes are something that I have been very excited and very intentional in wanting to put out. These are all organized beforehand. I take a lot of notes. I outline them. I absolutely construct them in a way that I hope will resonate with a lot of people. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I will be having more of these solo episodes interspersed with the guest episodes, and hopefully many more formats coming to the podcast. Share, tell your coworkers, tell your family, tell your cat, okay? I'm Michelle, host of We Cultivate the Pod, founder of We Cultivate, and I so look forward to continuing this journey with you.